Alrighty, I heard a little click. Wonderful. Alrighty there. So hello everyone. My name is Karen Vargas and I work in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions at Wake Forest University. I'm elated to be able to welcome you to this virtual session today to address the engaged liberal arts at Wake Forest University. Before we formally begin, I'd like to take a moment to thank my colleagues who are helping us and joining us in the background. My colleague, Dean McIntyre. Nicole McIntyre works in our office and serves our international students, but today she'll be serving you all as our student liaison and helping to address any questions that you all might have for our guest speaker today. And then Preston, who is from our information systems team. Both of them will make sure that we are running as smoothly as possible. As we formally begin and we start to think about intellectual curiosity and academic excellence at Wake Forest, I'd like to take a moment to welcome our guests, Dean of the College and Chair of the Southern History Presidential Endowed Position, Dean Michele Gillespie. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure to join you all. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dean Gillespie, as we start to think about the next part of this process and working with our admitted students, the engaged liberal arts is a distinct piece to the Wake Forest experience. And so as we start to warm up with our students and their questions, tell us a little bit more about your role as Dean of the College and what that exactly entails.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. First of all, I might just say that I've been a historian at Wake Forest for 20 years, and I've been dean for 5 years. So I've really had this wonderful opportunity to work with students as what I like to call myself a teacher scholar. We at Wake Forest pride ourselves in being teacher scholars. I'm someone who loves to teach, and I'm someone who loves to write my books and do research, and I'm someone who loves to really engage my students in that work as well. So that's sort of my main identity. But part of my identity in the last 5 years as dean is to be responsible for supporting all the other teacher scholars across the undergraduate college. So we have over 400 faculty who love to teach, who are passionate about teaching, but who are also incredibly intellectually curious and have expertise in one subject after another, in which they are really young superstars in a developing field or young superstars in a new field. And in some cases, they are the best scholars in the country or in the world later on in their careers. So it's really sort of an exciting place to be a dean, because my responsibility is to make sure all my undergraduate students get the very best education they possibly can. And I do that by supporting them and by supporting these 400 plus faculty members who love to teach, love to write, love to do research, love to do creative performances, music and art, and bring that to their students. So I have the best job actually in the entire world, I think.
Wonderful. Many of our students, as they're thinking about this process, have lots of questions. So we want to highlight that there's a chat feature for us. And if there are questions that they would like for Dean Gillespie to answer for them, please don't hesitate to reach out to them. Again, Nicole McIntyre will be facilitating those and sharing them with me to make sure that we're getting all of your pressing questions answered today. Let's think a little bit more broadly in terms of what the liberal arts truly means and what the engaged liberal arts at Wake Forest means to our students and faculty and staff.
Well, the whole notion of liberal arts is a very, very, very old, 2,000 plus year old notion. In fact, it was the training that the sort of best and brightest in classical Greece got. It was training in philosophy to mathematics to help these people be the best leaders in Greek society in this Greek Republic that they possibly could be. But over the last, of course, 2,000 years, we have really reshaped again and again, thinking to kind of the Western tradition of Europe, schools in France, schools in England, schools in Germany, schools in Spain, and have kind of shaped the liberal arts a little bit more. And then in the last 190 years, 200 years, we brought the liberal arts to the United States. Higher education in the United States believes deeply that part of our responsibility in educating young people to be successful in the world, successful certainly in terms of a career, and successful in terms of being great citizens, and successful in being leaders, really that necessitates having a liberal arts education. So we have a set of requirements that we ask our students to take. There's a lot of choice in this, but we ask all students to, we require all students to take courses in literature. We require students to take courses in a language, in a foreign language, to the point where they can read in that foreign language. We require students to take courses in history, philosophy, women's and gender studies, to choose two from that area. We ask students to take 2 courses in the social sciences, whether that's anthropology or political science or economics or education. And we ask students to take 2 courses in mathematics and sciences as well. So we believe every Wake Forest student then, by having that broad base of a liberal arts curriculum, even when they go and major in business or major in anthropology or major in engineering, are really served incredibly well, because they're able to think in very exciting ways across different disciplinary zones, different disciplinary tunnels. And one of the kind of most exciting things, I think, about Wake Forest graduates, whether they graduate next May or whether they have graduated 10 years out or 20 years out, is that they tell me again and again that even as much as they love their major and are passionate about their major, they are just as passionate about their liberal arts education, because they took a course in, say, cultural anthropology that they never thought they would like, or they took a course in astronomy and it has changed how they understand their physical environment, and they never would have done that otherwise. So our liberal arts education is just sort of a powerful thing. I didn't even mention the arts. You also take a course in the arts. So I have students who would never have taken a course in the history of music who now love opera, now love Wagner, because they had this exposure. So that's a liberal arts core. But what in fact is, as Dean Vargas said, the engaged liberal arts. Well, the engaged liberal arts takes that breadth of knowledge that you've gotten usually in your first 2 years, and then it steeps it with the experience of your major, the depth that you go into your major, and then the ways through our curriculum and through our sort of extracurricular opportunities, we invite you to use that education to understand the world. So really, our liberal arts education is taking knowledge, taking that curious mind of yours that you hone, and bringing it out into the world where you can apply that knowledge to real world problems. So when I think about examples, what might that look like? What would the engaged liberal arts look like? Well, in some ways, the engaged liberal arts is all about studying, well, we can go back to Greece. We can go studying classical leadership in Greece, and then being president of the student body. What does it mean to look at those ideals about character and leadership and put them into practice when you're president of the student body or president of a club? That's the way the engaged liberal arts work. Another way the engaged liberal arts works could be taking a course in philosophy in ethics, and also taking a course in public health. Well, think about what it means. All of you need to think about what it means to be and are thinking about all the time about what it means to be in a COVID-19 pandemic world. We know, as we look at our government in the United States, as we look at governments around the world, that there are significant decisions being made policy-wide, nationally, that impact what will happen with individual people and individual groups of people. That's essentially a kind of bioethics. That's a kind of engaged liberal arts, when you take your knowledge about public health and your knowledge about ethical ideas and you put them together. We need more people who understand bioethics in a world that has pandemics and other kinds of crises. So that's another example of the engaged liberal arts at Wake Forest. I'll give you one more example. And is that okay, Dean Vargas? Are we doing good? Okay. Another example might be taking a course in the engineering department that looks at water resources and the engineering of water, and recognizing that that you've just taken a course in political science where you've looked at structural inequities in society, culture, and politics in the United States. And you say, oh my goodness, in thinking about engineering and water resources, my internship in the city is helping me connect what I also learned in my political course about structural inequities and why certain groups of people who are marginalized are experiencing more deprivations in relationship to water, for example. So the engaged liberal arts is about the ways that we help our students use that learning to make sense of the world. And we have all of these resources for our students to be able to do that. Those resources include internships that are both credit bearing and non-credit bearing. They also include actual courses that are based in community engagement, where you're out in the community the whole time. They include undergraduate research and fellowships that we provide for our students through undergraduate research. They include support from different departments for research in the sort of work I do, like going to different archives to look at the research myself. I have students do that opportunity. So I'll stop there. But what I want to suggest is what excites us most, I think, at Wake Forest is understanding that that liberal arts core is really all about who we are as an institution and what we value in the world. It has a pro humanitate, how we can serve the world's emphasis. And at the same time, we also want our students to have practical experiences and skill sets and knowledge that they can combine with that core liberal arts learning.
I appreciate the thorough response. I think
Sorry.
many of our students, no, this is perfect. Many of our students are asking and seeking great information. So that is a great overview of what's to come. And so I appreciate that. We have a couple of student questions that I think really tie well into the interdisciplinary experience and the divisionals, which you've just done a nice highlight of. And so talk to us about how there are interdisciplinary courses that could count for more than one required divisional.
Absolutely. So we have 28 academic departments with majors and minors and core courses, but we also have 16 interdisciplinary programs, and we have many courses within our departments and within our programs that are cross-listed. So they may be a course that is cross-listed between history and music. They may be a course that's cross-listed between literature and environmental science. They may be courses that are cross-listed between biology and anthropology. And so those courses can be applied to those divisional requirements where you want to apply them. So we really make it pretty easy for you, frankly, to navigate the core requirements at Wake Forest, because there's so many good courses that let you explore in this interdisciplinary way, and also let you reflect your own curiosity and your own interests.
Wonderful. And then as a follow-up piece to that, many of our students are taking AP IB courses. And we know that if they take an AP course and they score a 4 or 5, that they are eligible to be considered for credit. And so where would that credit go in terms of meeting some of the requirements, the divisionals, as part of their Wake Forest experience?
So I do not have, I apologize, Dean Vargas, I do not have the document in front of me about this, but my sort of general takeaway, having advised students for 20 years, is that the AP credit will work for certain divisionals, and it will work as elective credit for others. And even when you declare majors, it can declare a major, for example, in history, which I know best. If you have AP credit for European history, for example, and a 4 or 5, that will count for your divisional in history. It will also count if you do a major in history, it will count towards elective credit in the major as well. So each department looks at APs and decides which count within their major and then which count across the divisional. And Dean Vargas may even be able to answer this one better than I can. So I'll toss it back to you.
Absolutely. And I was going to add, thank you again for that. But I'll add that the registrar's website has really great information on which department accepts what along the way. And so students can always reference that information if they're looking to seek AP credits, IB credits, and so on. Let's talk a little bit about the first year experience. You actually taught 2 students that I worked with closely last year. And so what does the first year experience look like? And that coursework, that mentorship, that opportunity to engage both inside and outside of the classroom?
Absolutely. So we are really, really aware that the transition from a high school student to a first year student is an exciting, wonderful, terrific experience. But we also know that our students are able to be most successful academically if they have a lot of good mentoring and advising. So we've created a number of ways to ensure our first year students have significant support from our faculty who care deeply about our students and about first year students. So we have first year seminars. All our students are required to take a first year seminar. They are interdisciplinary, and we also have students who are required to take a writing seminar as well. And what we've really built into the first year seminar and the writing experience is the opportunity for the faculty who teach those courses to also be those students' advisors. So I myself have taught a course last fall with my students, and they are all my advisees. So I got to know them in my class really, really well, in a small class, really, really well. Got to know them academically, got to kind of see them in the context of our course. But then I also met with them because they were in a living learning community in the Maya Angelou dorm. I met with them in that dorm. And I also built in a lot of field trips and experiences together in my course. So and I also was and still am, their academic advisor. So I have these students over to my house several times, and we just hung out together. We went to Charlottesville and went to a number of historic houses together in relationship to my course. And then when I advise, I go over and sit in the Maya Angelou lobby. I bring my dog and I meet with my students and we talk about the courses that they might want to take the next semester. Are they getting their divisionals through? And I also say, how's it going with your roommate? Are there things you want to tell me? Sometimes they tell me in that place, sometimes they tell me in other ways. But I really get to know my students in a holistic way. And I think it makes me be able to be a much better advocate for them and a much better mentor. I can push them a little bit. Oh, why don't you challenge yourself? I know you well enough. I know you would be successful if you would push yourself. You're interested in that course, but you're hesitant. Go for it, go for it, go for it. Or that's a little too ambitious. I don't want you to take 19 hours your second semester freshman year. Let's navigate this a little bit. So I'm not alone. I mean, you're hearing me talk about my own experience because I want you to understand it. But we have 110 other first year advisors like me, essentially doing the same, offering the same support and making that same kind of commitment to the holistic development of our first year students, because we want you to be successful. We want you to really enjoy Wake Forest. We want you to know all the resources that are here to help you really pursue that curiosity that's made you be a student accepted at Wake Forest in the first place.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My students have raved about the experience in your first year seminar class. And so I'm thrilled to know and to hear from you a little bit about that journey and how future students would be able to benefit from that. Transitioning first year students will come in eager, excited, and then they are thinking about the research experience. And so when I think of research, and when others think of research, they think of research as only being in the science lab. So how does Wake Forest support research more broadly in fields outside of the sciences? And how can students become engaged in that early on and often as Wake Forest students?
That's a wonderful question, Dean Vargas. First of all, I'm going to just, because I think I'm going to speak just quickly to science. We have extraordinary science faculty. They are deeply, deeply committed to supporting undergraduate students. They are here because they love undergraduate students. Not, I have colleagues at other institutions, and they're really much more interested in graduate students. That's not Wake Forest. We're all about, we have some graduate students, we want them to be successful, of course, but we're about the undergraduate experience. And the science majors that I know, even first year science students, love our opportunities in our science laboratories. But the thing is, and Dean Vargas is right on the money here, the thing is, across the the board, across our disciplines, we provide opportunities for students to do research and early on in their career. So how do you do that? Well, it starts out pretty easily. It starts out talking with your advisor like me and asking me, how do I get involved in, right? What's research that's happening in the political science department? And I would say, okay, I know 5 people in political science who are really interested in looking for student research. So that's one way we can do it, that we can just use sort of the mentoring advising to make those connections. Another way we can make those connections is to have students take courses that have some research components in it. And essentially you talk with a professor and you're interested in, let's do education. You're really interested in education policy. You talk to your professor in your education course and you say, wow, what's your research? And that professor says, well, I'm working on this aspect. I actually have a project. Would you want to help me with it? And the reason we can do this is because departments have funds for student researchers. So we can actually support student researchers with a little bit of money. And in some cases, not always money, just students do it anyway. Another way to do this is through internships. There are internships for credit in one department after another. And those internships, and I'll give you history that I know best. An internship in history, you can go to Old Salem in town, or the Museum of Early Southern Decorative Arts, or the Renolda House Museum, and you can get 3 credits for doing an internship where you're also doing research for that institute, for those institutions. That constitutes as research as well. Another way you can do research is if you have a really good paper that you write in class and your professor like, this is a great paper, that professor may encourage you to develop that paper a little more and submit it for an undergraduate student research contest or an undergraduate student research journal. And by the time you're a sophomore or junior and have declared your major, you would probably join one of the honor societies in your major, and you would have even more opportunities to do research. One of my favorite opportunities for research is through the undergraduate research center. And that undergraduate research center gives paid fellowships in summer for students to do mentored research with a faculty member. And I think I've had 10 students do that program over the course of my time at Wake Forest. So they have drawn up a project with me about an original research idea that we are both interested in. And this proposal has been submitted to the Undergraduate Research Center, and it's been funded. And the students get several $1,000s, and they get to stay on campus during the summer. Not this year, COVID-19. Remember, this is a wacky, strange year. We just can't have our students here this summer. And then we work together on that research across the summer. And I've had students who do that work and have decided that they don't really need to, they're glad they did research, but they're really interested in other things. They'd rather go into the business world, and that's been great. That's been fine. And I've had other students who have done that work with me and gone on to write books. So we have one set, I think, of resources after another to be able to do this. Another wonderful resource, I just keep coming up with more and more and more because there are so many. Another wonderful resource is our Richter Fellowships. We offer opportunities for students to write up projects with a faculty mentor that would take them in international travel, some aspect of research that they're very curious about. They work up that application and apply for it, and then they can travel in the summertime and do this research about any kind of project. I've seen projects on the history of fiddling that's in Ireland that's taken people to one pub after another to meet the fiddlers that play there. I've seen students go to Australia and do research on environmental challenges and honeybees. So there's all kinds of opportunities through the Richter as well. I've probably gone on at length about this, but I hope it conveys to you the number of opportunities and the different directions that one can go with one's curiosity here at Wake Forest.
And I appreciate the depth there. Many of our students, as they're coming into a place like Wake Forest, are asking a lot of questions related to research. And so how early can a student go in and find a faculty mentor or ask about those research opportunities?
The earlier, the better, to be honest. I think sometimes students don't feel they have their sort of intellectual sea legs until they've declared their major and then they're in their junior and senior year. But I encourage students to go ahead and talk to their faculty members about what they've been passionate about in their classes right away. So one of my students this fall, in fact, was in a physics course, and she really loved this course, and I knew her professor, and I told her, go talk to that professor. And she is now she is the youngest member of that professor's lab and is the happiest person on the face of this earth. So and I will tell you, faculty are looking for first year students all the time because they can invest in them and develop them over the course of their career here. And there's nothing more meaningful or exciting than having that opportunity to do that. There are other ways. So talking to faculty is one way. Another way to do this is through certain departments. For example, the economics department now has a paid TA system. So students who do really well in Econ 150, the entry course, may be invited to be TAs for other students, and then also work with the faculty member on the research that they're doing that it's kind of reflected in the Econ 150 course. So that's another way to get into the research opportunities at Wake Forest. We have a political science professor who does the same thing. He takes students who are really interested in his intro courses, and then he finds out that they're interested in it, and he has them work on research projects with him. And I've seen them do published papers together already out of that work. So it's really just talking with your faculty members, realizing that they are living, breathing human beings, that they are here at Wake Forest because they love undergraduates, because they want to work with undergraduates, they want to mentor them, and sharing your passions and sharing your interests. And if they're not going to be able to work with you on their research, they'll help you find someone who can do that.
Thank you again. I appreciate that. There's so much great information out there, and we want our students to be able to think of all different aspects. So I will switch gears a little bit and talk and ask about our study abroad program and how that complements the engaged liberal arts, knowing that Wake has specific programs abroad. So how does Wake Forest do this well, and what can students look forward to as students throughout their time on a college campus like Wake's?
We have a wonderful, wonderful study abroad office, and that office has really an incredible menu of opportunities for our students. We have opportunities for our students in the houses that we literally own in Venice, in Austria, in Vienna, and in London. And those are sort of special opportunities for students to travel to the city and live in with the lead faculty member and live in this house with 8 to 16 other Wake Forest students, take courses together, but also go explore and know the city as well. So for people who haven't had that much opportunity to travel, or really want to use their Italian or German, that's a really wonderful way to be able to experience study away. And it's a sort of delightful way to get to know the faculty member really, really well by living literally in the house with that faculty member. And at the same time, having 3-day weekends and 2 weeks at break to travel in the rest of Europe. So that's just a classic, wonderful way to combine the learning in a classroom, because you do take courses, with the laboratory that is the city. And our faculty build those connections together for our students. So they're getting, again, the engaged liberal arts. We have other kinds of opportunities, like first year at Copenhagen, where you are studying in courses that use for a whole year with Wake Forest faculty member and the DSI faculty who are there. And DSI's approach is the same as Wake Forest. I think that the Copenhagen program is all about the engaged liberal arts because they use Copenhagen as a city. So you take history courses and you go to the palace. You take art courses and you're in the museums. You are interested in pre-med, they have you in laboratories, they have you in actual surgery centers where you're watching surgery. So that's another example of a terrific engaged liberal art program. We also have programs with other schools, and so that have in other places, other cities that also have these sort of engaged dimensions as well. And we have programs through our languages. So we have an incredible program in Salamanca through the Spanish department that is, Salamanca is one of the 5 oldest universities in Europe. I mean, I've gone to Salamanca, I've been in their archives, I've looked at books from the 13th century. I mean, boggles the mind. And you can be in Salamanca and be surrounded by this incredible history, and make your Spanish better and learn incredible and travel too. And we have the same with our French program in Dijon. The East Asian Languages and Culture program has wonderful programs as well that they connect you to in China and Asia. We have a program in South America called the Southern Cone program that takes you both to Buenos Aires and to Chile. And so just incredible numbers of opportunities that let you link living in a society, in a community, in a culture, and with the kind of learning that you're doing. I'll share one other kind of, not so much study abroad, but study away set of experiences that also is pretty unique to Wake Forest, that's all about the engaged liberal arts as well. And that is, we have a semester in our Wake Washington program, where students, again, go with a faculty leader, usually from political science, not always, and live in DC, about a mile from where we have a literal center with beautiful classroom spaces, beautiful rooms for forums, fora, and students take classes in the evenings, and they have internships during the day. And they have worked with the Washington Center's faculty and staff to find those internships that speak to their personal interests, using sometimes, many times, our Wake Forest alumni base and our connections to find a great internship. So you do the internship during the day, you take classes at night, and you make the connections between what you're learning in your internship and what you're learning in the classroom. And that's been a powerful learning experience for our students. And then we just opened up this spring our Wake West program in San Francisco and the Bay Area, where we're doing the same thing. We have a faculty leader and a powerful staff vice president who lives in the Bay Area, and they have helped the students find unique internships for their abilities and interests and desires. And then the students take courses, a course in entrepreneurship at night, and a course in communications and social media. And they connect what they're doing in what all these 12 students are doing in their internships. They're sharing their experiences at their very different internships, whether it's with Google or a smaller startup, and then they connect it to what they're learning in the classroom. So the bottom line here is, I could probably talk to you for another hour, but through our study away programs, whether they're in other countries or whether they're here in the United States, we create opportunities, just as we do on campus, to blend that liberal arts learning, to blend that academic learning with what it means to be in the world, and skill sets that you can acquire as an undergraduate that make you that much more desirable when you go out into the world to look for positions. And I just will, with Dean Vargas's okay, I would just say that in my experience, as I talk to people who know Wake Forest students and Wake Forest alums, what they speak to again and again and again is both the depth of students, our graduates' knowledge, and their ability to think in more synthetic, big picture, problem-solving ways, the kinds of big picture, interdisciplinary, problem-solving ways that we need in pandemics, that we need for dealing with climate change, that we need for dealing with global challenges. We're really working very hard to make sure we deliver that education so our students are the ones who are leading, right, the world to be a better place.
And this speaks volumes to having over 60% of our students show interest in studying abroad every year. And if I hadn't studied abroad twice, I would have, really thought of myself as kind of missing out on something. And so I always advocate for that for students who are coming in, to think about it, to have the conversation, and certainly with the information that you're sharing with us, think about all the different places, different experiences, and different folks that they can engage with on a regular basis. So thank you for that. It speaks volumes to the type of students that are excelling at a place like Wake Forest, and certainly speaks volumes to our faculty and our connections across the globe. So much appreciated there. Before I can study abroad, I have to pick a major. And so I want to study everything I could possibly study while I'm at Wake Forest, and the liberal arts allows me to do that. But if I am that eager beaver and I want to start the conversation now, is that welcomed? Is that something that, I can begin to do? Could I reach out? Should I reach out? Or should I just wait for my advisor to contact me over the summer and start to talk about classes and interests then?
It's a great question. I think I think any department would be happy to talk to students about their majors beyond once, assuming a student knows what we have on the website already about their major, but would be happy to answer questions. I think the thing to think about is that if you are dead set on a business major, or dead set on a biology major, at this point, you may discover when you come here and get all the information in the world, you may discover in the course of taking your classes here that in fact, you're interested and passionate about other things and had never realized that before. And then for those students who don't know what they want to major in, that's okay too. That, I think we put a lot of pressure on students to know at 17 or 18 who they want to be in the world. And I know, because I have college age children, that they're asked all the time, what are you going to major in and what's that going to lead to? Well, it's terrific if you know, but you don't need to know, and you don't have to be certain about this. I think the most important thing is to know that at Wake Forest, you can ask for information anytime about any major, and we would encourage it. But we don't expect you to know what your major is and make you stick to it, whether it's right now, or whether it's when you walk in the door, or whether it's when you start your second semester first year, or even by the end of your sophomore year. We know that students are exploring and trying to figure out what the best path for them is. So I think the most important thing is to get lots, to just satiate your curiosity, ask questions, get a lot of information about majors, and then also let it sit a little bit, let it weigh a little bit, and ask people to talk with you about faculty you've had, about the proclivities they see in you, and the abilities that they see in you. And I think the major decision making becomes easier that way.
And so as a quick follow-up there, Dean Gillespie, if I select a major and I go in and I'm excited and gung-ho, but then I realize maybe this isn't the major, or maybe this isn't the class, how flexible are student class schedules in their first year and sophomore year?
Their class is very flexible. I mean, there's incredible flexibility, and I sit and advise my students all the time. Oh, you really, I don't, they come in and say, Dr. G, I thought I wanted to be a doctor, and I took these science courses, I took these lab courses, and you know what? It's not me. It's really not me. And I said, it's okay. That's all right. That happens to many, many students. And we talk about what the student enjoyed, and we explore some other things. So there's plenty of choices all along the way to pick a different set of classes. Second semester, first year, first semester, second sophomore year, second semester, sophomore year. I have students who really don't decide on their majors until their junior year, and it's okay, and we get them through. And part of the beauty of this is the core liberal arts gives you some courses that to get you started, even if you had not planned on going in the direction for that major. So we have lots of flexibility.
And it's that analytical skill development, making sure that students are well prepared to go out into the market and do real world experiences, not just in classroom work. And so in thinking in that same spirit, I am about to embark in the journey for looking for jobs and thinking about what happens after graduation. And so how does the engaged liberal arts help a student after they graduate from a place like Wake Forest?
Well, this is a wonderful question, because even long before students go in on the job market their senior year, the students are partnering, and faculty are partnering too, with the Office of Personal and Career Development. And so as I'm advising students, even my first year students, I tell them that it would really behoove them to take a 1-credit course that is offered through the education department that looks at career development, even their first year. And I also say, I really think as you prepare to look for a summer internship or a summer job, that you should go over to, we call it OPCD, go over to OPCD and bring your resume. And I know, because I know the people in OPCD, that they will sit down with my students and they will say, well, what did you do in Michele Gillespie's first year seminar course? And they will talk about the work that they did in my course, the reviews for books that they did, and they will talk about what the students learned about reviewing those books. And the OPCD staff will help the students be able to articulate, right, the analytical skills that that represents to put into their resume. So we begin helping our students think about career readiness long before they've even declared their major. And there are 3 1-credit courses. They're staged. So they're developmental. So the first one is really thinking about yourself and your proclivity and your passions through the OPCD education department. The next one is how you get that good summer job, that good internship that could land you a job for your first job out of school. How do you do that? How do you do that search? And the last 1-credit course is all about finding the actual post Wake Forest job. So I really encourage my students to do their educational experience in line with the OPCD as well. And I see again and again and again that it makes an enormous difference in the kinds of positions that my students get. They get great positions, but even more important than the fact that they get first jobs and that we have like 98.9% students getting jobs. The other piece of it, I think, is really important, that students know so much about themselves and they're able to identify their skill sets out of their engaged liberal arts experience, that they are able to articulate them to their employers. And they're also comfortable in their own skins about who they are and what they can accomplish in their first jobs. So that's a pretty exciting combo to me. And that's another kind of engaged liberal arts at Wake Forest.
And that's the beauty of the journey, where students are able to engage with so many different folks across their campus experience and think about who they want to be as young people, as entrepreneurs, as doctors and lawyers, and whatever paths and careers they choose to take. So thank you.
Well, and I think along those lines, I would also say that we have just so many ways to support students, because we have pre-health advising, and we have pre-business advising, and we have pre-med advising, and we have societies to support for students to support each other, and clubs within those areas. And yeah, entrepreneurship. I'm sorry that I didn't even bring that up. Entrepreneurship is our second largest minor after chemistry. So many students explore entrepreneurship through a set of courses that, even if they're not going to be entrepreneurs, they learn about entrepreneurial thinking and design thinking, and they're able to bring that into whatever they pursue. Even if they're going to go get a PhD in physics, they can use the knowledge of design thinking to be helpful there. Or if they're going to be an economist, they can use the knowledge that they learned and the ways of thinking they can learn in entrepreneurship. So I appreciate you bringing that up, and just underscoring that we have a number of sort of pre-career societies that help our students, get the mentorship, get the resources, get the knowledge they need to be successful beyond Wake Forest.
You wear multiple hats, Dean Gillespie, so I appreciate everything that you're sharing with us. This is enlightening. And even as someone who's been at the college for several years, I learn each and every day. And so this is helpful to me too. In speaking in the same spirit of this collaborative effort, majors and minors and experiences, at the core of who you are, you're an educator, right? And you get to work with students day in and day out, and you get to help mold and shape them throughout their journey here at Wake Forest. So what do you think makes Wake Forest professors that good, right? What helps distinguish us as this top tier institution, as this research-based institution, as this test optional institution? What makes our professors and our faculty that different and that distinct in this process?
That's a wonderful question, and I thank you for it, because as much as I love spending time with students and I love teaching and I love advising, I also have to wear the hat of kind of overseeing who we hire at Wake Forest. And I think a lot about how we do the very best job we can at identifying the kinds of faculty members who will make that kind of commitment to their undergraduate students and the engaged liberal arts. So when we look for faculty to come to Wake Forest, we're looking for people who are certainly talented, passionate, engaged, student-facing teachers. That's really, really important. We're also looking at people who are really good scholars, who have the capacity to be the very best intellectual leaders in their field. And then there's that other piece of it. So that's hard. That's hard to get to be excellent in both of those things. And we do not tenure or promote faculty who are not excellent as both teachers and scholars. But then there's that other thing that I call the pro humanitate thing. That's our motto, pro humanitate. I also think that Wake Forest faculty, that faculty come and be a part of the Wake Forest community because they also believe in pro humanitate. We're not a perfect community at Wake Forest. There's really no perfect communities, but we work really hard at making our community better and better. How can we make sure that we look at issues of equity and opportunity, and we support all our students as completely and carefully and intentionally as we possibly can? How can we work together as a community and be a model community for the rest of society? That's hard work. It's not easy, but our faculty are as committed to that idea of what it means to live in a just and world as they are to being teachers and scholars. Indeed, our faculty would say that part of one's education to live in the world is to know what it means to live in community in this caring and equitable and just way. So that's who our faculty are. And they're really pretty amazing people. And they come in all shapes and sizes and all kinds of interests and all kinds of talents. But at their very core, they're people of character. They are people of sort of deep commitment. And they are people who are here because they believe education makes the world a better place. And they believe working with young people is sort of the most powerful way to make our society even better.
You've mentioned a key word there, community, right? And who we are as a community on this campus and in our Wake downtown, family members and so on. And so let's connect this to the Winston-Salem community. How do our students and faculty and staff members engage the liberal arts experience through our partnership with Winston-Salem, the city, and the city known as the city as known for arts and innovation at its core value?
That's a wonderful question. The city, we're deeply connected to the city. We live in the city. Our neighbors are people who live in the city. What's been very exciting to me is to have the opportunity to work with the Mellon Foundation and bring a number of Mellon grants to Wake Forest that have given us opportunities to support projects and courses that our faculty develop that bring our students into the community. So we ask more and more and support more and more faculty who want to connect their scholarship and community engagement to literally to the city of Winston-Salem. So our provost, for example, led a poverty task force looking at poverty in the city, and he also taught a course on poverty both locally, nationally, globally. So the students were really using the city in a way as a laboratory, but they were using the city as a laboratory. That's kind of a fraught way of framing that, isn't it? They were really listening. They were talking to people in the city and listening and learning about their challenges and experiences and ideas and suggestions for things that would make the community less impoverished and ways that we can help the city as a whole. So we've built opportunities like this sort of all over the place across our academic departments for this kind of community engagement. And we have a wonderful, wonderful office called literally the Civic and Community Engagement that creates opportunities to link our faculty and students with needs identified by community members, right, that we can help serve or we can help support. And that may take the form of courses. It may take the form of volunteer work. There are internships through the Civic and Community Engagement Office. So we take that responsibility very, very seriously, whether it's in the arts realm, whether it's in the science realm, whether it's in the social sciences. Even as a historian, I've been able to connect my students with writing parts of Winston-Salem history that no one had really paid attention to before and bring new voices to the table in that process. So all of us at Wake are very, very committed to making that sense of community broader than just Wake Forest, to be inclusive of Winston-Salem and its surrounds in all its complexity, in all its diversity.
I appreciate that. As students are wrapping up their questions, we have room for maybe one more along the way. And so this may be a bit more personal, but maybe these are some good parting words. Serving as Dean of the college and being a parent and seeing a senior in this process, what words of encouragement or words of comfort can you share with students as they're selecting their home for the next 4 years and considering Wake as their home as a possibility?
Well, I would say to you that my heart goes out to all high school seniors this year because COVID-19 has just done a number on you. It's done a number on all of us, but it's done a heck of a number on you. And so I want to say that you have all of my empathy, and I know that it's incredibly, incredibly challenging to be finishing up your courses in this way and not have the opportunity really to be together as you finish your courses and to really celebrate in the way in person, face to face, in the way you would have normally. On the other hand, I would say to you that you have learned a lot in a very short period of time about the nature of contingency and about the way that there are certain things that happen that are completely and utterly beyond any of our control. And you have learned how to be nimble and how to be flexible. You have learned how to deal with your doubts and your fears. And those are life skills, right? Those are powerful life skills that will serve you incredibly well over the course of a very, very long and happy life where we're not going to see COVID-19 anymore. So in a lot of ways, I think you're better equipped, frankly, than previous classes of students coming to Wake Forest because you really recognize that there are some things you can't control and some things you can control. And one thing you can control is to come to a school like Wake Forest where we really, really want you to be here to support your curiosity, to support your education, to support your dreams in essence, and help you develop to be the person that you want to be in the world. A person who leads with character, a person who cares about pro humanitate and the world, who cares about being in community, and who also wants to be really, really good in whatever discipline and in what ways that discipline turns into the profession that you pursue. So I would just say that you're the students we want to see at Wake Forest. You're the students that we want to educate. And we think actually COVID-19 is going to make you be really, really special in the world going forward. So that's what I would say to you. And I'm eager for you to come to Wake Forest.
Absolutely. This is a resilient group, one that is showing to us great a great level of intellectual curiosity, and we are thrilled to have them as part of our incoming class. Many congratulations to you all in this journey. We hope that, again, this is a journey for you as you select your home for the next 4 years, that you consider Wake being that place for you. Again, many congratulations to you all, and we look forward to seeing you on campus soon. Go Deeks!